Hi, I'm Dom Hind, and fuck, I'm nearly 50. Actually, I'm 47 and 5 months, and I have started the countdown. It's weird, isn't it? You hit your mid-40s and suddenly your body starts behaving like it's got a mind of its own. One minute you're powering through life. Back-to-back meetings, workouts, parenting chaos, and the occasional glass of wine. And the next, you're crashing at 3 p.m. Your guts are unpredictable, your sleep's patchy, and your genes feel personally offended. And the worst part, you're doing all the right things. You're eating the kale, you're moving your body, you're meditating when you remember. You've got a drawer full of magnesium and a fridge full of good intentions, and still something feels off. Slower, heavier, foggier, inflamed. And here's the kicker. We're told that this is just what 45 plus feels like, that it's hormones or stress or just getting older. But what if that's not the whole story? What if chronic inflammation is quietly hijacking our energy, our mood, our metabolism, and even our ability to feel like ourselves? This episode dives straight into that question. And what can we actually do about it? So whether you're flat, foggy, fired up, or just curious, this one's for you. Let's get into it because fuck, I'm nearly 50 and isn't it amazing? Amelia Phillips is one of those women who just gets it. She's a clinical nutritionist, exercise scientist, and a mum of 4. And she's been in the wellness game long enough to spot the difference between a trend and what actually works. You might know her as one of the original pioneers behind the 12WBT program, which transformed thousands of Aussie women and how they approach fitness and food. But what she's doing now, it's different. Her Inner Vitality program is built for real women in midlife who are tired of feeling burnt out, bloated, and wondering why they still feel exhausted despite doing everything right. Today, we're going to dive into what inflammation really is and how it's running the show, why strength training is our midlife superpower, how to rethink our approach to food, movement, recovery, and a few cheeky extras. Some midlife mythbusters, hot or hype, and her real vitality toolkit. So whether you're thriving, surviving, or somewhere in between, Amelia's here to help us stop pushing, start resetting, and get back to feeling like ourselves again. Big call. Big promise.
Got my work cut out for me today. Jeepers, Dom, what are you doing?
Well, Amelia, welcome to Fuck, I'm Nearly 50.
I just love the title. You had me at the title.
I just couldn't. Just the play on the F's. It's too good.
I
know. How would you describe what you do in the least wellness expert way possible?
Oh, God. Such a hard question because I'm such a wellnessy kind of person, aren't I? But honestly, when you really boil it down, I help women understand their bodies better. Because I have seen over my 26 years in this industry that when you understand your unique body, you understand what works, why that works, what doesn't work, why it doesn't work, it unlocks behavior change, it unlocks clarity, and that's how you can separate the wheat from the chaff. That's how you can scroll through Instagram and go, I'm not falling for that fad. That's not going to sit well with me. But it comes back to understanding our own unique bodies. And that is a journey.
Oh, yeah.
It's a journey for all of us, but it's one that I feel like as a collective community, us women are taking on in full charge because we're sick of being gaslit. We're sick of being told by, men who have used research that was 90% on male rodents and then on male athletes often. And so we've kind of gone, fuck this. We're going to take matters into our own hands. And so what I've really, how I've kind of honed and crafted my career and my message is in line with my age as well, because
Yes.
I'm almost 50,
Yeah.
well, 46, so heading there as well. And so it's great that I feel like I've got this unique perspective where I've got the training and the education and the qualifications. I then got this experience working with hundreds and thousands of women over my career. So actually being on the front line and seeing change happening on a large scale. And then I'm going through it personally as well.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I offer a unique perspective, and I have never been more passionate and more hopeful for this next phase of our life. So I want to try to get that message out that this is a comeback. This is a reckoning. It's such a wonderful time for us women.
Yeah, and it's so interesting in all of the conversations that I've had with everyone, not on the podcast and in general with my friends.
Yeah.
So much of it is about understanding ourselves.
Yes.
And so often we just don't put the time in.
No.
We look for everything else rather than actually looking at ourselves and going, what do I actually want, or what do I actually need?
And well, it's also confusing because where do you begin?
Yeah.
Like, when Amelia says, I got to understand my body better. Well, what the hell does that mean? Like my height, my weight, my skin, where do we begin? And I think that's where the overwhelm comes in, because we haven't been given a blueprint or a roadmap per se, but that's what I like to do. That's what my business is. That's what Inner Vitality is. That's why I partnered with an amazing integrative GP so that we can together take our members on this journey with a clear roadmap.
Yes.
But we're not just telling them what to do. We're empowering them to understand their bodies better. We're showing you these are the markers that really matter if you want to set up this beautiful second stage of your life.
Yeah. And I think that is the thing. Like I just love the idea of having baselines. And I think like having a baseline or a starting point, it's such a good way to start the journey, because you've got something to come back to. Is it working? Is it not working?
Yeah.
And I think that we just need to be pushing that more.
Yeah, and start tracking now before the shit hits the fan.
Before you fall down the other side.
No, you want. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. So let's start with the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one word that keeps coming up and keeps coming up and keeps coming up about how women feel when they're flat, they're foggy, or just not themselves. It's inflammation.
Yeah, it absolutely can be. It can be lots of things, but silent simmering inflammation is a real issue for women approaching 50 and post-menopause, and it's not spoken about enough. And I feel like there's a lot of confusion around it. So it's a fantastic topic to talk about.
And so what is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
What is inflammation? All right. Well, in a nutshell, we all understand acute inflammation. So you walk out in your fabulous heels and you slip on a crack and you roll your ankle, and within 10 minutes your ankle blows up like a balloon.
Mm-hmm.
That's acute inflammation. So your body is doing a wonderful thing where it's sending a lot of fluid and blood to an injured site, and then it is repairing it. Or let's say you get gastro or you get ill and pathogens have entered your body. Well, then there's a really fast acute inflammatory response, which is all your fighter cells just, arming up and fighting. Wonderful. We love acute inflammation. It keeps us alive.
Yep.
But then we've got chronic inflammation, and that's really what I want to focus on today. And so this is this low-grade simmering inflammation that happens in some of our bodies when certain triggers are repeatedly given to our body. And so what happens is these inflammatory markers are simmering, they're elevated, not enough that you notice it. So you may have no symptoms initially. But then what might start to happen is you notice little things like when I have that glass of wine, I'm now getting very sinusy. Within 20 minutes of having the wine at dinner, I can feel my nose is very blocked. Or you might wake up in the morning and go to put your rings on or take them off, and you realize that your joints are really puffy. You can feel it in your fingers. Or you might go to the doctor and realize that you've been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, celiac disease, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, or you might find that just food intolerances, foods that you used to be able to tolerate, you can't tolerate. These are all signs that you have silent chronic inflammation. But there you can test for it.
Yes. Yep.
So this is what I think is so, so important. And so in Inner Vitality, which is our flagship program, our business is called Vitality 360. It's a membership platform where we run a whole bunch of amazing functional health programs using testing. So Inner Vitality, which is our flagship program, measures 55 key blood biomarkers, which I call the sleep well at night markers. They give you an overall snapshot of your health.
Yes.
So we measure a bunch of inflammatory markers, and the resounding feedback we have had, and we've had thousands of women through this now, is, oh my goodness, I've got elevated inflammation. I had no idea I did.
Well, even when you just said about the, because I don't drink anymore, but even like just the rubbing of the nose on the wine, it was too annoying and I just stopped doing it.
I know. It started happening to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Another reason not to. I stopped drinking when I started tracking my sleep and I saw what it was doing to my sleep and I decided it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it's hard, but interesting. Okay.
So there's a couple. So there are a couple of the kind of signs and symptoms, and then those more starting to get diagnosed with some of those conditions are kind of, I guess, the red flags. But I would like, even if our ladies listening today, just go and ask their doctor for a high sensitivity CRP, which is the kind of gold standard inflammation marker. Now, just know one blood test, it doesn't tell you if that's chronic or acute inflammation. So if you're going and having a blood test and you're fighting an illness and you come back with high inflammation, you don't know. So that's why sometimes, number one, don't get the blood test when you've just rolled your ankle, when you've got a big graze up your arm, for example, or you've been ill. And that's why having a few tests kind of over a period of time, you go, oh, wow, okay, I've tested it now 2 or 3 times this year and it's always elevated.
Yeah.
And also Dr. Yasmina's optimal ranges are a lot tighter than the reference ranges as well. So
that's a good point to know, because even with those ranges, I know, because I've had a couple of issues with my liver, not from alcohol, but just from stress-related things.
Yeah.
And even it's never within the normal range, but who's normal?
Yeah, the reference range is essentially 90% of the population.
Yes.
So it's not actually the healthy range that you should be in. So when you get that blood test, and hopefully everyone here is, when they do get any kind of test, they keep a copy.
Yes.
That's where you can start. So a lot of people still don't do that. Make sure the doctor writes patient on the referral so that you get your own copy. And then the reference ranges you see on there are literally just societal norms. So you sometimes either ask your doctor or if they've got an optimal range, or, Dr. Yasmina has. And look, some of them are. They're exactly what the reference ranges are, and that's fine. But, that's just a good little tip.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Why does this matter, and understanding inflammation in midlife matter more now?
Yeah, such a great question. I think the best way to answer it is that the 4 biggest killers of Australians and people in the Western world, the 4 diseases that kill the most people, all stem from a body that is inflamed.
Wow.
So in its simplest form, if you can keep your inflammatory markers and if you can keep your body in a state of low inflammation, you're kind of warding off what Peter Attia, and I borrowed this, he calls them the 4 horsemen, the 4 biggest killers of the Western world, which is cardiovascular disease, so heart attacks, strokes, things, obesity-related heart disease, cancer.
Yes.
Which a lot of people don't think of, associate with as being inflammatory, but many cancers, all cancers, stem from a state of inflammation. Metabolic disease, which is the fastest growing of the 4 horsemen, and that's essentially type 2 diabetes is the big one there, and neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia. And there's a bit more talk in the media about inflammation relating to those neurodegenerative diseases. So basically, if you want to keep the 4 horsemen at bay, you got to kind of think about following a low inflammatory approach and just keeping an eye on those markers through the years.
And what are the signs that some women may be living in that low grade or that the inflammation state? Obviously, the rubbing of the nose after wine. Are there any other?
If you are carrying extra body fat,
yes,
particularly around the middle,
yes,
that type of visceral fat is pro-inflammatory.
Right.
So you're probably at a higher risk of having that simmering. We call it metaflammation. So inflammation caused by metabolic imbalances.
Okay.
So if you're metabolically not coping very well, so for example, you're carrying extra body fat for whatever reason, insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, you're in a state of what our markers will show if you're in a state of being overfed. I know it's a strange term, but we can look at someone's markers and say, your body is in a state of being overfed and it's struggling, and that is actually driving up your inflammatory markers. We need to make some lifestyle changes to bring that down. So apart from the other symptoms I mentioned earlier, that body fat one is another one, but just know it's silent.
Yes.
You can, I mean, if I'm looking at you, Dom, and you are not in my bucket of high risk. Okay. But we don't know what's going on beneath the surface. That's why I don't like to stab in the dark.
No, I think it is. The markers are, as the baseline, you've just got to get to understand what they all mean and where you are.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think the acute inflammation is always in my body.
Really.
Because I do too much exercise or try or whatever. But it's that underlying inflammation that, you just never know.
No, and it's just one of those sleep well at night. Why wouldn't you, basically?
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. I like that. So is it just food, or is it overtraining? Is it stress, poor sleep, joylessness? What is causing it?
I like to put it into 4 key buckets.
Yes.
Which is diet, exercise, stress, and environmental toxins or toxic people.
Yeah. So does that mean we can get rid of all those toxic people?
Let's put that all in the same bucket, shall we? I just threw that toxic people in there because, but hey, it contributes to stress. I'll elaborate on those a little bit. So probably of all of those 4, the diet is the biggest lever that you can either can either drive up inflammation or drive it down. Yeah. Okay. So, and I know we're going to talk lots about strategies, which we can later on, but just knowing that, a diet that's very high in pro-inflammatory foods is really going to make a difference. And on the flip side, if you're someone that follows a diet that's very high in anti-inflammatory foods, that's really going to make a difference. Exercise is kind of similar. So undertraining and overtraining are both pro-inflammatory. So imagine a bell curve, imagine a chart, and you've got the bell curve kind of shaped like a mountain. Yeah. So if you think of like the sweet spot for managing inflammation, it's, the worst is no exercise, and then the bell curve rises up. You're in the sweet spot for just healthy exercise. We can talk about what that is from 50 minutes a week. And then the bell curve falls back down again on the overtraining side. So elite athletes, endurance runners, etc., they can sometimes be carrying that low-grade simmering chronic inflammation, although I would argue that sort of inflammation is not as dangerous as some of the others. Yeah. And that's certainly in my cohort, that's a very, very small percent. I wish I had more people that overtraining was an issue. Definitely most of my members are the opposite end of the spectrum. So then we had environmental toxins. Yes. I think everyone understands. Yep, from what we put on our skin, what we ingest, what we inhale, all of those factors, and then stress. Yes, is a big one. Chronic stress, and we've run some incredible tests on our members measuring stress and cortisol through a special test called a CAR test, and I was blown away by how many of our members were highly stressed. We kind of put it into 3 buckets of chronic stress, what we call a blunted car, so basically adrenal fatigue and burnout,
Yeah.
and dysregulated where it was just all over the shop. So, oh my goodness, the
Okay,
stress thing is real.
Yes.
It's real, and it has a physiological impact,
Yes.
which not many of us, I think, really land with, but it really does.
So when I was going through my liver, like up and down, or just trying to investigate what was actually going on, I started to meditate because I was just like, I need to do something to try and get the stress levels down. And it was interesting how it did have an impact on my liver just by taking stock.
Isn't that amazing?
Just the time. Yeah. But
I bet you didn't even kind of in the beginning believe it was going to
I did not. I was like, oh, this is such a crock. Like as if it's going to have an impact. But it did have an impact. And I have fallen back out of the habit of it, and I can feel my stress levels go back up.
It's breath work. Even, and I'm a failed meditator, although meditators tell me that there's no such thing as a failed meditator, but I'm like, well, then describe me, because I don't know what other word to use. But breath, that's why I like breath work.
Breath work is
that's
a good one.
But it's remarkable what an impact that makes. And you touch on a beautiful point that I really want to give all your wonderful listeners so much hope, is that inflammation is one of my favorite markers and one of my favorite health metrics to manage, because it's so sensitive. And so unlike others, like, the scales, for example, or some of these, cholesterol, which can really feel like an effort to change, inflammation markers will come down before many other markers change. So it's in such our power to make a difference with this one. And that's why we get all these good news stories where members come back and go, oh my goodness, it's now back out of the red, it's in the green.
Oh.
All I did was, add some blueberries, and I stopped having that fried food on a Friday night. And so it's really encouraging to see how much our body wants to repair itself.
Yeah.
Our body wants to be well.
But I think even in that because we're so addicted to instant gratification, so having the ability to see the changes quickly or quicker than what it would take for something else, that's an amazing thing as well.
Yeah. And then what you find people experience is these side effects that only in hindsight they go, oh, my brain fog's appeared. That was a symptom I didn't mention. Brain fog, mood, inflammation, particularly around that metaflammation, and inflammation in the brain affects things like mood, brain fog, anxiety. So people will then say, oh, and so interesting. Also, I've noticed these improvements. I'm concentrating better. I'm not having those down moods like I used to. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's encouraging.
It is. Can we, just before we move on, the food and the foods, like even just the adjustments in what you were talking about with the blueberries.
Yeah.
What are your go-to? Like if you had like 3 go-to foods.
Yeah. That's easy. Good. Yes, I like that one. Well, before I get to the go-to foods, I want to emphasize that what you don't put in your mouth is just as important as what you do put in your mouth.
Yes.
Because remember I mentioned all these pro-inflammatory foods. So you really need to clear those out. And for some people, they don't even focus on what they're putting in their mouth. Actually, the biggest benefit comes from their removing. So those really high ultra-processed foods are big culprits for inflammation, particularly inflammation through the gut. Because what happens particularly as we age is our gut lining and our gut integrity already degrades. Think of your gut lining like think of it like a swimming pool that has mosaic tiles on it.
Yes.
A swimming pool that has mosaic tiles on it, and over time the grouting in those mosaic tiles starts to crack.
Yes.
And so water starts to seep through. Okay, that's kind of like your gut lining. So when you're young, you've got these great mosaic tiles. It doesn't matter if you've got crappy water coming in the swimming pool or, crappy food coming through. You've got the mosaic tiles are keeping everything, out. But as we age and those cracks start to develop in our gut lining, and then we're bringing in these strange looking molecules that are ultra processed, highly refined, and those molecules are now allowing and being able to pass through those cracks. And then what happens is these pro-inflammatory cytokines, which are sitting on the other side, and they're like the guardians and they're sitting there and suddenly these weird molecules are coming through and they go, whoa, pro-inflammatory, danger, danger, and they trigger these pro-inflammatory cytokines.
Yeah.
So we want to reduce that
Yeah.
by eliminating so ultra processed, so simple carbohydrates,
Yes.
all of those really highly processed white wheat, fried food, cakes, biscuits. It's funny because when you talk about fried food, a lot of people are like, oh, no, that's not me. Like I don't eat Hungry Jacks or Macca's or anything like that. But you think about the Asian meal you had and
the calamari or the duck or the pork belly or
saturated fat is very pro-inflammatory. So if you're someone, I love full cream milk and I love dairy, and I'm definitely telling you keep having your butter, don't switch to margarine. But if you're having a lot of those saturated fat foods, particularly deli meats, sausages, ham, salami, prosciutto, they're all pro-inflammatory.
Yeah, okay.
So get rid of those.
Yeah.
And then you're dialing up your anti-inflammatories. So you have 3 foods. So anything dark, purple, red. So berries, beetroot. Beetroot is a massive hero. If you're if you're someone that does a lot of exercise, particularly endurance style exercise, you should be trying to have beetroot 3 times a week. It's
okay.
I don't like singling out single foods as a nutritionist, but I have to say that it is a real superfood. So these are all foods that are very high in polyphenols.
Yes.
Okay, so these have anti-inflammatory properties in them. They really bring it down. Dark green leafy veggies as well. Extra virgin, cold pressed extra virgin olive oil is another one as well. I'm sorry, you probably were wanting something really cool and innovative and new.
No, but I think even the beetroot, that's What about as a cheat for the beetroot? What about like a beetroot juice? Is that
absolutely. I love it when you are blending instead of juicing, so that all the fiber. And I know the great thing, Woolies and Coles now do these. What are they called? Not zip-locked, but airtight, pre-peeled and cooked beetroots. And I did some research because I was like, is this as good as the real thing? And a tiny little bit of nitrate gets lost, but it's just as good.
Really?
Apart from that, and for me, if I had to peel it,
cook it,
roast it, or grate it, or do whatever, it takes forever. So I now just have those, and sometimes I'm so uninventive. I literally just eat it whole. But no, you're so right. I chuck those in my smoothies. My kids are very athletic, so it's like
Really? I wouldn't have expected that.
I'm always, throwing what I can in their smoothies, trying to, keep them as healthy as possible.
That's actually because I think they're called love beets. Like I have seen them as well. Yeah, and they are amazing, and they come like in a pre-pack but that's a great thing.
I think because they are airtight, that must be locking in the nutrients. This small amount of nitric oxide that gets lost in the research, I did quite a big deep dive into it. Because I love beetroot so much. So there you go. That's my little hot tip. Good. That should be in your shopping every week on repeat, and just, chop it up in your salad, throw it in a smoothie, have it on the side.
Afternoon snack.
Yeah. So they're really the heavy hitters.
Okay.
Dark chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah,
good.
Nuts as well. Just always eat a mix of them. Walnuts in particular, selenium, Brazil nuts 5 of them contain your RDI for selenium, and if you've got some metabolic issues or thyroid issues, a lot of us are quite insufficient in selenium. So I'm always like, have your Brazil nuts.
Yeah, I think okay, good. Brazil nuts are a good one. Okay, so let's bust some myths. These are the things that we've been told for years, but I don't know whether they're actually true. So true, false, or complicated.
Okay.
Cardio is the best way to lose midlife belly fat.
It's complicated.
Okay.
It's definitely complicated because physiologically, the exercise that dials up lipolysis, which is fat burning, so the exercise that will have you in a state of fat burning is zone 2 cardio.
Yes.
Okay, zone 2 is meaning 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. It's basically cardio activity where you are able to hold a conversation, but only just.
Okay.
So physiologically, it's true. Cardio is a great fat burner, particularly if you're glycogen depleted. So if you've got no blood glucose so in your blood, so for example, you wake up fasted and you train fasted cardio, physiologically that will get you into a fat burning state fastest and you'll burn fat.
Okay.
But we all know that that's not the complete story.
Yeah.
Because for fat burning, we need to have one of the biggest metabolic engines that we have on our body is our beautiful muscle, our lean muscle. So if you're addicted to cardio and you're a string bean and you've got very low muscle mass, then metabolically that's actually not that healthy. So that's why, unfortunately, there's no one winning or this is what you have to do when it comes to exercise and managing body composition, which is really important as we age. It needs to be, there's kind of 4 key domains of exercise, and we need to do all four domains of exercise have their place.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go through
Yes, I would love to.
Okay, all right.
Am I doing them
Yeah,
all
let's.
or
Okay,
not?
well, let's find out. So the first 2 are cardio related. So zone 2 and VO2 max.
Yes.
Okay, so zone 2 I just explained. That's your steady state cardio. Great for mental health as well.
Yes.
Great for connecting with nature if you're able to get outside and somewhere through a park or down by the beach. The second one, are you doing this, Dom? VO2 max. These are short, sharp, hard, maximal outputs of cardio. So these are your sprints.
Yeah.
These are your on the assault bike at the gym, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, repeated 5 times, sprinting to the last 200 meters of your run. Are you doing any
I'm doing spin, and in spin we do a lot of there are a lot of hardcore okay, we're now going for a sprint.
Great. Well, then, it basically is at a point where you're at a point where you have to stop.
Oh,
your body
literally, I will fall off the bike.
And look, for any of our beginner exercisers that are listening to this going, I do not like what this Amelia chick's saying right now, I'm going to give you 6 months leeway. So for my people that are just coming back into fitness, you don't need to do your VO2 max work for 6 months.
Okay.
But 6 months' time, you have to promise me that you're going to start doing it. It doesn't have to be a lot. Like I said, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. It could be burpees. I always call it a fast finish. You're just doing that it should only, VO2 max should only be 10% of your total load. So some people listening might be going, oh, actually, I'm probably doing too much VO2 max.
I think I am. But
okay.
Yeah, based on my Apple Watch afterwards, I'm like, my heart rate was a bit too high for all of that.
So it's important to be doing that gentler zone too, especially if you're someone that errs more on that stressed type, which is very hard. You're probably an A-type personality.
How do you...
I just stabbing in the dark here, Dom. I love it. Takes one to know one. Don't worry. Lots of our ladies are. So that's, giving you permission that actually that just steady state is really actually it's setting you up to the thing that's going to have you living to 100 is that zone 2 cardio.
Okay.
So they're the first 2. Then the third one is strength.
Yes.
So lifting heavy shit.
Yes.
I could talk for days about this. And it's a journey. So for those of you listening who have never done strength training, you might, people say, is Pilates strength training? And I guess I'm never black or white about these things, but if you've never done any strength training, I feel like Pilates is a lovely, reformer Pilates is a lovely stepping stone. But if you've been doing reformer Pilates as your strength now for a while, you need to step into the weights room. Yeah. You need to lift. My goal with a lot of my ladies is to say you need to lift your body weight 10 times in a deadlift. Yep. So you think about how much you weigh, a deadlift, the barbell with the weights. Yep. Don't go and try it this afternoon. Build up to it. But that's a great goal to have. You need to be able to dead hang for between 60 to 120 seconds. So that's just hanging off. Go to the park with your kids, find a bar and just see how long you can dead hang for. There's lots of different moves, but strength is so important. And I feel like there's a lot out in the zeitgeist at the moment about the power of strength training.
It is it's interesting. So I was doing so much spin and Pilates, and now I have swapped it. So I do strength training 3 times a week.
Okay.
Pilates 2 times a week, and spin twice a week.
So do you know that's a TikTok trend?
What is?
I was on Channel 9 2 days ago talking about exactly what you just did.
Oh,
It's
really?
called the 3-2-1 method.
Oh, really?
Yep. 3 days of strength training, 2 days of Pilates, and 1 day of cardio. And it's a trending TikTok. Did you start that
No,
trend?
I doubt I did.
You're doing it without even realizing how cool you are.
Yeah, except I do 2 spins. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there
So
you
it's
go.
fun. It's fun. But
3-2-2 method.
Yeah, but it's hard because when you're used to push, like, because I train hard and I'm used to pushing my body hard, but going back to strength training, and it's really like I find it boring. Like I really find it
Yep.
boring. And the
Yep.
great thing is I'm now in a room with 6 other people and we all do it at the same time.
So is it a
training.
class?
It's a class where it is
How are you
strength
finding
training.
that?
Much better.
Much better.
If it was just myself and a trainer or myself
Yeah.
doing it myself, I just find there's no challenge. And yeah.
I 100% agree with you. And for any of the entrepreneurs listening to this, there is a huge opportunity and a gap in the market for a new strength training business trend. There is such a missing middle of women in their 40s and 50s who have never grown up in the weights room and they don't want to do curves.
No.
Because there's an amazing program for osteoporosis and strength training, very evidence-based, is called Onero, but that's also for people that have low bone density.
Yeah.
So that doesn't, but there's nothing
in the middle.
There's nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
Look, I think pump class is a great place to start.
Okay, right.
Yep. CrossFit, interestingly, and F45, I would not recommend people go to CrossFit without being sort of an intermediate.
Yes.
Like you could do CrossFit. This
Yeah.
is why I love CrossFit,
Yeah.
because it's got that group-based component to it.
And there's a bit of a challenge too, because I like competing with that person next to me. And if it's a man, it's even better because if I can annihilate.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a skill involved because a lot of the moves in strength training, once you start doing Olympic lifting, there's a lot of skill and gymnastics involved, which I personally like.
Yeah.
Like I never thought at my age I'd be doing handstand push-ups. And here I am going upside down and then having competitions with my kids at home and losing terribly to them. But I think that you're so right. We have to, and this comes back to what I said at the very start, where the onus comes on the woman to find her own.
Yes.
And it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But it's just where we're at. And so if you find it boring, then it's not vibing. Mix it up. Try something different. And I think group-based, and that's why those personal challenges of like, can you deadlift your body weight 10 times? There's some great periodized programs.
Yeah.
So that's the third one.
Sorry, yes. I love the exercise one's always been like I'm fascinated by it.
It is. Oh, and it makes such a big difference. And the last one is mobility stability. So this is all the flexibility work, but also the balance and stability work. So, for example, we'll often have some challenges of our members standing on one leg.
Yes.
With their eyes closed and seeing if you can make it past 30 seconds.
Yeah, and what is there a marker or an indicator?
Yes. So I've actually got a chart, and don't make me memorize this. I won't be able to tell you. I'll get it wrong. I can send you the link to pop in the show notes. But I was on the TV show Do You Want to Live Forever? And we did all this longevity testing. And so basically if it shows if you're 40 to 50 years old, you're meant to be able to stand on one leg for X seconds to X seconds. And I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get it wrong.
No, that's
but I will put a link in the show notes. And then, so it's hilarious because we would then say to our participants, you've got the balance of a 70-year-old. And there's nothing like that to set a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a challenge. I know it sounds ridiculous, but in the shower, when I'm washing my body, I will stand on one leg and shut my eyes and do that. Just
and unlock your knee slightly. So when you're standing on that one leg, just slightly bend that knee and you'll feel your ankle stabilizers start to really light up. So that's a great little tip. When you're brushing your teeth, stand on one leg.
Okay, yeah.
And the leg that you stand on first is usually your much better leg. So I always say you'll stand on that one leg and then go, oh no, I'm going to switch sides. Always work on the poor leg.
Yeah, okay. That's a good one.
So they're the 4: VO2 max, zone 2 cardio, strength, flexibility, mobility. All of them are equally important.
Yes. And it's just again, coming back to you, and making sure what works for you as a person.
100%. And if you've only got 3 days a week, well, you just got to work out how you can slot those in. Or what I like to do is I like to really focus on one. I do use the school term because that's my whole life is in school terms. So for term 4 last year, it was all about strength. I really wanted to be able to deadlift double my body weight, and I wanted to be able to squat my full body weight 10 times. So all of term 4 was strength.
Great idea.
And then term 1, I'm really cardio focused at the moment. I'm trying to, because you can track your VO2 max on your wearable. If you've got a wearable that's actually reasonably accurate, you can see, particularly Apple Watch, and I'm not sure about all the others. But so I want to get, I want to dial up my VO2 max by 2 points. So I'm really focused on that. I'm doing everything, but that's the one thing I'm focused on.
I think it's really interesting with your VO2 max. The only way you can actually track it is when you've gone for a walk, which I think, because I was looking at that with Justin and we were going, oh, what my VO2 max, it hasn't gone up, it hasn't gone down, it's just been steady. And then we went for a walk and I could actually see that it had.
There you go.
So when you do an outdoor walk, apparently that's when it resets to see how you're.
Is that right? I did not know that. I thought it was, there you go.
There you go.
So I learned something new today.
You spoke before 150 minutes of cardio. What is?
Look, that's just the national recommended guidelines. So 30 minutes 5 times a week. You can slice and dice it any way you want, but it's just the national recommended guidelines. Honestly, they can't even justify it. I mean, they would like it to be a lot higher. They think it should be a lot higher, but then it's no one would ever achieve it. We're not even achieving it as a nation anyway, but it is the national recommended guidelines is 150 minutes a week, and they don't care how you do it. You can do 150 minutes in one go. You can do 10 minutes 3 times a day.
Just do it.
Yeah, and if you're not an exerciser, the 10,000 steps is a great one as well. Very hard to do, but a great one if you hate the gym and but you still want to be really healthy. Just track your steps.
What about this one? You can't build muscle after 45.
Oh. False.
Yeah.
Definitely false. I won't say it's easy, but you can 100% build muscle after 45. I send so many of my ladies on DEXA scans. I like all my ladies to come back with at least 40 kilos of lean, fat-free mass, and I see that number going up all the time. But I do have ladies come to me saying, oh, I'm scared I'm going to get too muscly. And I'm like, you wish, honey.
How much are you lifting to get that muscle?
God, I wish, that I could make you more muscly. There's no doubt if you were to take 47-year-old and somehow miraculously get 25-year-old Dom doing the exact same strength training program, she's going to blitz you.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So you get a DEXA scan.
You don't know how annoying I am.
Yeah.
Or competitive.
Competing with your 25-year-old self. I wouldn't put it past you, my friend. I would not put it past you. But it is much, much harder as we age to lay down lean muscle, and it's much, much easier to lose it.
Yes.
So it has to be taken seriously. That's why protein intake is so important. That's why we put a lot of our ladies, they need to have a protein supplement in a protein shake because they're just not able to get it in the quantity of their daily calories.
It's so much protein that we have to be eating.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot. Like I start my day every day with 2 hard-boiled eggs just to try and get some protein.
How can I get 20 to 30 grams in every meal and then not get really constipated as well?
Chia.
I've got a little tip for you that works a treat. There's a great fiber, a prebiotic. So you've got your regular fiber like psyllium husks, but this is it's a brand called Designs for Health, and it's called Paleo Fiber.
Yes.
And we recommend this to a lot of our ladies, and you just put it in with your protein. If you get constipated because you've upped your protein, this fiber, so it's fiber, which is great, but it's a prebiotic as well. Whereas psyllium husks, you're just going through you. But this one's actually really going to help with that integrity of your gut lining and just help fertilize those healthy gut bugs. So, that's a great one.
I love that. Fertilize your healthy gut bugs.
Yeah, it's like fertilizer. It's the prebiotics, is a fertilizer. Exactly.
Intermittent fasting is a miracle for women.
It's complicated. Okay, so I can tell you who should not intermittent fast.
Yes.
And then we'll talk
Yeah,
about who it could work for. And I know Dr. Stacey Sims, who I love and I follow, and I think she's amazing. She's very anti-intermittent fasting, but I get a bit frustrated because she will often caveat what she says very quickly at the start of a conversation with the exception of overweight or obese people. So no, you shouldn't fast, and it's blah blah blah. Oh, with the exception of overweight or obese people. So let me explain. Okay, you should not intermittent fast, and I'm talking about longer than 12 hours.
Yes.
Pretty much anyone can fast for 12 hours.
Yes.
So 8 p.m. till 8 a.m.
Yeah.
That's just your prolonged overnight fast. But those much longer fasts, prolonged overnight fasts, like up to 16, 18 hours, etc. If you have a low body fat or very healthy body fat composition, and you tend to be more of that stressed and type A personality type, intermittent fasting often doesn't work in a very what we call a exaggerated cortisol, so that higher stress person. Those people generally don't respond well to intermittent fasting. Then on the flip side, if you have some metabolic issues, so you might be insulin resistant or pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetes, this is why it's complicated. For some people, intermittent fasting is a game changer and it works really well. But if you're one of those people that's unable to control your blood sugar levels, if you fast for a long period of time, you are actually at a really high risk of a hypoglycemic episode, which is where you can faint and your organs can start to shut down. So although intermittent fasting can be a brilliant weight loss tool, if you know you have insulin resistance or pre-diabetes, you need to fast under supervision. That's where CGM can be really a continuous glucose monitor, because you can see if you're having a low blood sugar episode. But for everyone else, which is probably 90% of your listeners, there is a place for it. Because for the majority of us, we live in what's called an obesogenic environment. We live in an environment that is working so hard to make us overeat. It's working so hard to make us eat more and move less. That for many of us, trying to manage our caloric intake to meet our energy requirements and not overload it is a really hard thing to do.
It is.
So having 2 meals a day with a little snack in the middle works so well. Having a big brunch and a beautiful family dinner at 6 p.m., a big brunch at 10 a.m., family dinner at 6 p.m. and maybe a little snack or protein shake or something like that in the afternoon. And those people are sitting, wherever their caloric needs are, go for it. Don't worry about what Stacey's saying.
I do. And this comes back to, it's all about you and what works for you. And
understand your body better.
And understanding what works and what doesn't. And it is true. Like even at lunch today, I had the biggest bowl of rice. And I'm like, I don't need all this rice. Like you could cut it in half and that would be absolutely fine. And then I was asked what was wrong. Why didn't you eat it all? Because you were literally feeding me for 4.
Feeding me like I'm a lumberjack.
Exactly.
And I always say, particularly if you're trying to manage your weight and you're, trying to keep that body composition in check, it's really healthy to feel hungry below the neck twice a day for 15 minutes.
Right. Okay.
So think about, and I often have members say, I never feel hungry, ever. And I'm like, that's a red flag. So have a little experiment. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, don't eat until you feel hungry, but it has to be below the neck because that is true hunger. That is when your hormone ghrelin. So what happens is your tummy comes online, like your digestive engine has to wind up. It's a bit like booting up your computer. And for some people, it takes a lot longer in the morning for their digestion to come online. And if they're trying to eat when, it's shut down, that's not good. That's not healthy.
And is the noise in your tummy, is that a good indicator?
Absolutely. But you often will feel it before you hear it, although, some people have noisy guts. But feeling hungry below the neck and then sitting with that hunger. This is if weight management is an issue for you. Sitting in that hunger for 15 minutes because what you're doing then is you're improving your insulin flexibility. So your body is basically saying blood glucose is declining, so we need to now dial up lipolysis. We need to dip into our fat stores and start turning some of that amazing body fat into energy. And that's that metabolic flexibility that's really, really important. But if you feel hungry above, like
Yeah.
say in the afternoon,
Yeah.
you are hungry, you go, hang on, is this below the neck or above? Oh, it's a craving. It's like a taste in my mouth, a feeling. That's when you have to go, okay, that's a craving, and we need to, there's lots of strategies to managing through those cravings.
I love that.
Yep.
Below or
Yep.
above.
And if you're worried about energy, a really fun fact is that we have enough body fat on our bodies to fuel us to walk from Sydney to Melbourne.
Okay, great.
So there's fuel in the tank, honey.
So
There's
you can't go without.
Yes.
That craving, you can actually think about something else.
Yeah, it's not that you generally, and it's funny because we're exhausted. It's just the worst because we're exhausted, we're frustrated, we've got brain fog, we've got all these things that are just causing us to crave the, salty, sugary or fatty foods. But actually the best thing we can do is not step onto the roller coaster and not have those sugar spiking foods or those foods that put a lot of pressure on our digestive system. But yes, easier said than done.
Yeah, it is easier said than done. But at least if you can identify it,
yeah,
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was telling you off air, one of my hot tips is the collagen hot chocolate.
Yes.
I got a sweet tooth, and so I use Chief Collagen. They have a really delicious dark chocolate collagen powder that I just have in the afternoon when I'm craving something sweet and I want to pick me up. I have that with a splash of milk, and it's just delicious. And I sip on it all afternoon, and that gets me through the craving.
And I like that you actually put omega.
Yes, I do. That's right.
That's like
yes.
the Jaffa.
Yes, because I've got my omega oil, which is, I don't like the taste of it on its own, but it's got a citrusy, trying to mask the, fishy taste. But if I tip it in my hot chocolate, it just makes it taste like a Jaffa.
Yeah. Which,
how good is that?
I know, how good is it? Yes, that in the afternoon.
I know.
See, I just have my collagen matcha.
Matcha is great.
Yeah.
Love matcha.
Okay.
Although it has got a bit of caffeine in it. But
yeah, that's probably why I like it.
yeah.
But I don't drink coffee, so it's
and
like
you sleep well?
Yeah, I
If
sleep
you don't
very
have
well.
a problem with sleep, then go for it.
But I do have magnesium before bed.
Perfect. She's got it all worked out.
I don't know about that, but there's always things you can learn. With a lot of women are still training as they did in their 30s. High intensity, full throttle, which is what we spoke about just before, and it's burning them out.
Yeah.
And their joints and their shoulders and their knees.
Yeah.
How can movement make you feel supported rather than just feeling burnt out?
Yeah, such a great question. And again, it's very personalized and individualized. But know that as we transition through peri and then menopause and then post-menopause, our joints change quite dramatically. So in the 5 years post-menopause, by the time we get to 5 years post-menopause, we will have lost 30% of our body's collagen.
Yeah, it's such a massive
So
number,
annoying, isn't it? And you don't...
Do men do the same?
Well, they don't go through menopause.
Yeah, okay.
So
right.
it's for us, it's the transition of the hormones. We lose the beautiful protective element of estrogen, which is very nourishing, and progesterone as well. And so we recognize it in skin, right?
Yes.
Everyone's very conscious of wrinkles. But what we don't realize is that collagen is connective tissue. So our joints, when they lose that collagen, it really impacts our joints. That's why we hear a lot more tennis elbow and frozen shoulder.
Yes.
And so you've got these ladies that may have had a break from exercise, remembered that they could, punch out 50 push-ups in their 30s, and then they jump back into the gym and they don't warm up. They don't do the extended warm-up that our aging joints need. And that's when those joint-based injuries flare up. And then, of course, you lose confidence and exercise isn't fun and you're scared, and it has that.
And you don't want to hurt.
Exactly. It has that whole knock-on effect. So that's why the good news story is that 4 domains of exercise and having that balanced approach, because it gives you permission to do the gentler exercise. Know that zone 2 cardio is setting your heart, your cardiovascular system up for living to 100.
Yeah.
So it's actually you're doing the best thing you possibly can by dialing that back a bit. And if you're doing a lot of hard cardio because you're trying to outtrain a poor or outrun a poor diet, just know that it's not going to work.
No.
And there's going to come a point where you need to address your diet because that's not what exercise is.
Well, and it is,
for.
isn't it 70% of what you put in your mouth and 30%, well,
Yeah.
everyone's different, I know, but what you put in is.
You won't be able to out-train a poor diet. And also the poor diet, we were talking about inflammation in this whole episode has a real inflammatory bend to it. So you shouldn't be putting those pro-inflammatory foods in your mouth. You should be working to dial them down anyway. So, you shouldn't be training to outrun that diet.
Yeah. And it's interesting, even just in that mindset of changing from the sweat to the strength it's a big change.
Well, for you, I mean, you're having a bit of an identity crisis around like it's slower, it's a bit more boring. I'm not coming out beetroot red, having to sit and rest for 2 minutes while my, muscle glycogen replenishes my creatine phosphate in my, it's a different type of training. And if you're used to just thrashing it out in cardio, it's a bit of an identity shift.
But it's like coming from that high, like you do get the runner's high or, the cardio high and changing it to, it's not there.
Yeah, but you know what I found? I get a strength high. Like when
when you've lifted.
When I lift heavy and I'm like really heavy and there's grunting and there's, it's not pretty. I'm not one of those. I'm a messy crier or ugly crier and I'm an ugly strength trainer. I could never be like a fitness influencer. Thank goodness.
I think you should be.
No, just you'd see all those, there'd be memes about me, like the Kim Kardashian memes. So no, but there I reckon you'll get to a point where it'll click in.
Yeah, okay.
I do see that happen. Get at it, Dom.
I'm trying. For someone who's never touched a weight, how do you convince them that this is the best gift that they can give their future self?
I would start by following an Instagram page called Train with Joan.
Okay.
Have you?
No, what colour hair?
She's a lady in her 70s.
Yes, I do know. Yeah, yes.
She's got 1 million followers.
Yes.
She looks like, or she did look like anyone's granny.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, lovable. And she discovered exercise in her early 60s and she's aged backwards. Yeah. You should see her now. Yeah. Unbelievable. That to me is, I think, start to establish what I like to call some worthy idols. So think about maybe someone in your current decade, maybe someone in the next decade. For a lot of people, it could be Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
It could be Michelle Obama's arms. It could be, hopefully there's someone in your life that you look to as inspiration. Because I can tell you one thing, we are all going to be old for a long period of time, which is great news.
Yes.
We'd rather that than the opposite.
Yes.
But we are an aging population. And a couple of really interesting stats on that is that centenarians in Australia are aging at a rate or growing. So the number of people over 100 years old is growing in Australia at a rate of 6% per year, which is massive. But here's a contradictory stat. The life expectancy in Australia has just gone backwards for the first time in 20 years.
Wow.
So I can't remember the exact, is it 84 for women and 81 for men? I can't remember the exact, but the recent report came out about 3 months ago and you're like, well, how do those two marry up? So here's how it marries up. The reason why our average lifespan in Australia has gone backwards is chronic disease.
Okay, yes, yep.
But if you manage to avoid those 4 horsemen, which you will, and I'm planning on, hopefully, and all our beautiful listeners are, if you can avoid those chronic diseases, then you're going to be old for a long period of time.
Yes.
And therefore, this body of ours needs to be able to carry us independently for a long period. And you think about pre-frailty and frailty, and you only have to think of a couple of relatives that you know. Think of some people you know in your 80s, and my mum and dad are chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
My mum could sit on the couch you're on right now, which is quite a low couch, and she could just pop up without even touching. My dad, I would need to pull him up. He's so immobile. He's so weak.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
And that's strength.
Yeah. Okay.
Cardio is not going to do that.
And I always, I keep telling myself with everything, what does your 80-year-old body want? Like,
I
you
love
need
that.
to
Ask
actually
your
go,
future
yeah,
self.
ask your future self, like all the time, which is why I stopped running, because I was like, I won't be able to walk. And it's also whenever I look at something that I go, oh, that looks so delicious.
Yeah.
I then go, what would my 80-year-old self say?
love
And
that.
it's just a nice way of reframing it.
It totally is, because we don't want to lose our independence, and we want health span, not
That is it.
lifespan.
Yeah.
We want to be independent. And, if you want to be able to go up and down those stairs at 95, you want to be able to carry 3 kilos in each arm at 95, which is the equivalent of the shopping, around the corner. You want to be able to carry 3 kilos for 5 minutes each in your 90s. Well, that means in your 80s, you've got to be carrying 6 kilos.
Yeah.
So in your 70s, you've got to be carrying 12 kilos. So in your 60s, by the time you get to your 50s, can you pick up 2 20-kilo dumbbells and do a farmer's carry for 5 minutes? Because that's what you've got to be able to do.
Yeah. Which is, and that in itself is like, it's a good motivator.
Don't you think that's motivating?
I absolutely do.
Yes, good. One person's motivated.
Yeah, which is why I'm sticking out the boring weights.
Oh, I know. Ask your future self. She goes, oh, we want you to have a party. We want you to have a cocktail and relax. Put the weights down. Shut up, future self.
Food is one of the most confusing wellness topics out there. And when it comes to information, everyone's got their own opinion. We did talk about the 3 things to bring in. But we did talk about the fried foods. Is there anything else that when it comes to information, the women in over the 40s, we should be looking for?
I think for inflammation and diet, they are the biggest levers. I feel like we covered it pretty well. There's a couple of, I'm just going to throw some kind of more context around it. There are supplements you can take as well. Okay. There's one called SBM Active, which is a good one. Omega-3s is a great one as well. These are just kind of to dial it up even more. But what I will say is, instead of thinking about just completely overhauling your diet and going, okay, table flip moment, I've listened to Meals and Dom. Starting tomorrow, I'm only anti-inflammatory all the way. And then you know how the story plays out, right?
Yeah.
Let's approach it a different way, which is let's pick one part of your day.
Yes.
Because the great thing about us is we're creatures of habit. So we get many attempts at these things because most of us live pretty, consistent. I'm going to say boring for me, but I know everyone else far more exciting. But I eat relatively similarly each day. So pick one part of your day and your eating pattern that you'd really like to focus on. So for me personally, I've got the world's biggest sweet tooth. And up until 2 years ago, I was having dessert 7 nights a week.
Oh, wow.
And that dessert was getting
what was it?
bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so my Monday to Thursday dessert was, those Cobb's popcorn?
Oh, yes.
A whole bag. But that's not enough. I would get chocolate, like some form of whether it was favorites or, if I was being healthier, Lindt dark chocolate. I feel like I'm in a confessional now. I would put the chocolate at the bottom of the bowl. I call it the bomb. So just when you think you're getting to the bottom of the bowl of popcorn, you get the bomb, which is the chocolate. Anyway, so yes, and I wanted to stop this.
Yeah.
And I tried and failed and tried and failed. I would go down, tonight's the night. I'm not, and Tim, I could just kill my husband. He would sit there with an apple and just be satisfied. And I would look at that. And so I'd sit there and I'd get myself an apple and be watching my show, going like this, starting to feel really antsy. And then like halfway through the show, I just run to the kitchen and
get it.
Bowl over air. So for me, and it was actually my beautiful podcast, and it was a tiny habits method. I interviewed BJ Fogg Phillips, and I interviewed his sister who has this method called the tiny habits, and I did it, and it worked. Yep. And one of the things they talk about is like making the goal and the habit change so small. So I just started to do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yes.
And I could not enter the lounge room. So I completely changed my nighttime routine where after I put the kids to bed, instead of going down to the lounge room watching Netflix, I go straight to my bedroom and I did a whole self-care ritual bath. I bought beautiful aromatherapy. I got the magnesium bath salts and I always had a good book. And it was hard, like maybe for 2 or 3 weeks. But the replacement of this amazing self-care, I was going to bed an hour earlier.
Wow.
And just Monday to Wednesday, and then Thursday to Sunday, I went nuts with my dessert. But now here I am 2 years later, I don't need dessert at all.
Isn't that interesting? And I was even thinking how you focused, or you said before, focus a term for each of your exercise, fitness goals. You could also do it with the food as well.
100%.
Because if you've got something that you can couple up, and it's only a short term, because that's, I think, the biggest thing is we all get stuck on these big, lofty, even year goals, but they don't stick.
No. And even the Monday to Friday thing, I think, is fantastic. And another great one is sleep. For a lot of people, sleep is something that they really want to improve. And so I say just be fanatical about it. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's where you're not going to watch your show. You're going to set an alarm. You know, like I wake up super early, so I have to work backwards. If I want to be in bed for 8 hours, it's embarrassing what time I have to actually get in climbing to bed. But it works. And so circling back to nutrition, pick one part of your diet. It could be alcohol.
Yes.
It could be that after dinner sweet treat. It could be, pick one area. It could just be your breakfast. Like a great tip is to switch to a savory breakfast.
Yes.
So no more getting on the sugar roller coaster. Our blood sugar is so sensitive first thing in the morning on an empty stomach that if we have that extremely healthy smoothie that's got all the goodies in it, but it's got a lot of sugar in it, we're going to get on that glucose roller coaster and we're going to crash down later on. So pick one part of your diet and dial up the anti-inflammatory properties. And then just focus on that for the term.
Yes.
I love that for a few weeks or whatever it is. Once it switches from an effort into habitual, then it's effortless.
Yes.
And that's where you look back and I cannot believe I used to eat that much dessert. It's effortless for me to not have dessert now. And my past self, that was inconceivable.
Yeah. Well, you know, and that's an amazing thing. Like just being able to look back and go, I've done it.
I've come a long way.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have come a long way, and we don't give ourselves, a pat on the back. Think about how you were in your 20s.
Oh my gosh.
On a diet of ciggies and cocktails and, your exercise was walking home in heels at 5 a.m. from the club. Like, hey, girls, we've come a long way.
What's one underrated tip for supporting your gut health that we should consider?
Probiotics.
Yeah, okay.
We need to come back to them. They had a moment. I would say that whenever you go through a gut disturbance, get back on the probiotics.
And what is a gut disturbance? Like a flu, a cold?
Yeah,
sickness?
anything where you get where you have gut dysbiosis, so constipation, diarrhea. You had a really bad trigger. You maybe went out one night and then for 2 days afterwards you noticed that you were constipated and then you had diarrhea. So when you've had something that as your gut hasn't liked, maybe you've been sick with the flu or, of course, antibiotics, we need to reseed those really healthy gut bugs. And the 3 most researched actually, I'll talk about 4 of them. So you want to have a supplement that includes these is lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, and then bacillus. I know that everyone's like, we've heard of those, but they're the ones that have got the most clinical research. And then the other real superstar coming up the ranks is Akkermansia. Akkermansia, particularly if you've got metabolic issues, so struggling with weight, it's an insulin sensitizer. The bad news is there's only one really good brand called Pendulum, and they're expensive. I think possibly $100 sort of if you're taking them for a month. But if you've got the funds, that would be worth trying. But then the other ones I like, Probispore. Yeah. That's a really good, or anyone can just DM me on Instagram if they want to know. But even Inner Health Plus, they've got a lot of clinical trials behind them. Don't take probiotics consistently.
Yes,
but if you've had a disturbance, jump on them for a few weeks and then use that food first approach. So while you're having and you're re-inoculating with those, you want to have some fermented foods as well if your tummy can handle it. Pouring kefir is a great one to pop a shot glass full in your smoothie. Pickled veggies are great. that would probably be,
Okay. They're good ones.
Okay.
Okay, trends. So can you tell me if these ones are hot, hype, or helpful but overdone? Cold plunges.
I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan.
I hate the cold.
Me too.
I hate it.
I'm not a fan, and there's more and more research coming out saying it's not ideal for ladies anyway. The other thing I've just found is we're also time poor.
Yeah.
What are you displacing? If are you switching out a workout or shortening your workout, or are you not now shopping? But it comes to getting to know your body better.
Yes.
If you feel amazing doing it and you've got the time and it's not displacing some other healthy activity, knock yourself out. I swim once a week, jump in the ocean.
Like an ice bath.
I wouldn't do it except my friend Zoe makes me do it, and I always blame her. But I always feel fabulous when I come out. So look, if it floats your boat, you feel great. But I'm definitely not encouraging people to go out and do it.
I much prefer a sauna.
Yeah, me too. Actually, sauna, so hot to cold has a lot more evidence and efficacy behind it
Than just
particularly good for circulation and for skin health as well.
Okay, good. Collagen powders.
Love. In fact, I interviewed a really great nutrition scientist, Dr. Tim Crow, on my podcast, Healthy Her, and he's very conservative and, a little bit he's just very conservative. So usually everything he turns his nose up to. He was even very fizzy about collagen. And interestingly, again, we always love food first, but what the research is telling us with collagen is that hydrolyzed collagens, the supplement, actually seems to have better uptake in connective tissue than the food first. And I can explain why.
Yeah.
Have time.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So imagine collagen is made up of amino acids.
Yes.
Okay. Think of a Lego structure.
Yes.
Okay. It's got lots of little pieces of Lego that are stuck together. When you eat chicken skin or your bone broth and you digest it, the collagen that's in that skin and that bone broth, those Lego structures have to get pulled apart by your digestion. Okay, so all those that structure gets pulled apart. Lots of little Lego pieces get digested, get absorbed through the gut, and then in the connective tissue, they have to then build those Lego structures back into collagen.
Yeah, right.
Hydrolyzed collagen is like a Lego structure that's been super glued together. So when it's hydrolyzed, it sticks together. So it goes through digestion, and the digestive process, this is the theory, doesn't pull the Lego pieces apart. So the collagen peptide stays intact and it's uptaken by the skin, connective tissue, gut lining a lot more efficiently. Yeah, so it's
okay.
So I'm very pro collagen for peri-meno and post-meno.
Okay, amazing. Good. I'll keep taking mine then.
Yes.
Gut cleansers.
What do you mean by a gut cleanse?
Like actually a detox or
so not a fan of colonics at all.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so I know I'm going to make some enemies by saying that, but
this is where everyone's like whatever works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have just seen too many horror stories like years later, I have seen some acute horror stories, but our microbiome and in our digestive tract is so precious.
Yes.
And it is not designed to have
a flush.
Yeah. But horses for courses, Dr. Yasmina, my business partner, who's a functional medicine GP, has done a lot of training in functional medicine, is also, cautions against it. But detoxes, not a juice cleanse.
Yes.
I particularly for over 40s, but a whole food detox I am a fan of. So this is maybe 14 days really focused on those anti-inflammatory foods.
Yeah.
I feel like for some people, a short period of time where you're really pulling out any of those pro-inflammatory triggers, you're really dialing up all those healthy nutrient-dense foods, fiber, and you're really focusing on putting lots of key anti-inflammatory properties like turmeric, ginger, a bunch of herbs and spices. Go for it.
Okay, great. What about apple cider vinegar?
Yeah. So in our gut health as we age, and again, I'm talking, peri, meno, and post, we have kind of 4 key drivers of optimal gut health. This is probably a whole podcast.
Yeah.
Good talk. So I'm not going to go into detail, but you think of gut health as a whole blob, a whole thing, but there's actually 4 key drivers of gut health. And one of the drivers is what we call digestive function. And digestive function is everything from chewing to saliva production to digestive enzymes. And as we age, digestive enzymes like amylase, they degrade in our body. Our ability to produce our own digestive enzymes goes down.
Yeah.
And so it makes it harder to digest food. Those larger chunks go through. We've got those mosaic tiles cracking. So now we've got bits of food either putrefying in the gut or being passed through the gut lining, leaky gut syndrome, etc. And now we're having those inflammatory responses. So apple cider vinegar, a little shot glass or a tablespoon or 2, 15 minutes before a meal can be really helpful to help your digestive enzymes. You have a kick along. Taking a digestive enzyme supplement like Multigest can be a game changer for people. Bioceuticals, Multigest. Or pairing your meals with foods containing digestive enzymes. So pineapple. Isn't it funny how pork is often served with pineapple? And yet pineapple contains these amazing digestive enzymes. How did we know? Isn't that great? Pork can be hard to digest. Papaya, coconut. You just have to Google it. There's lots of foods containing digestive enzymes. So if you feel like your digestive capability is declining, then but just if you're having it, rinse your mouth out afterwards because that can impact the enamel. Same with that lemon water. You don't want that acidic residue in your mouth.
Okay, yeah. As I said that, I just licked my teeth.
I might take a sip of water.
Okay, nearly getting to the end. So for some fun, a quick fire round of real life go-tos and things that you actually really like to do. What's your favourite breakfast?
Smashed avo, baby. I'm broke all the way.
What about with a poached egg or
with a poached egg. And my mum always makes me a bag she toasts pepita seeds and she puts them in a container when she comes to visit. So I've always got these amazing toasted pepita seeds. So I'm gluten-free. So gluten-free toast, smashed avo with some feta mixed through, a little bit of feta, poached egg, pepitas, or if mum hasn't got her delivery, hi mum, reminder, then hemp seeds as well. Yeah.
What's your best $20 health buy?
Ooh, that's a great question. Dr. Teal's.
Yes.
Mineral magnesium bath salt. What's that? Bergamot and Himalayan rock salt.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. And there's lots of beautiful flavors, but I love the bergamot one.
Okay, good.
Yeah, doctor. Not that the magnesium you absorb from a bath is nowhere near the same as what you absorb, but I just love the smell and it's cheap. Dr. Teal's, I'll buy like 6 bags at once.
All right, good.
So just feels so luxurious and it's only, I'm sure it's under $20.
Most underrated form of movement?
Oh, well, running's not underrated. Downward dog. I love a good downward dog.
Can you actually get your heels to the ground?
No.
Yeah, I can't either. I'm like,
you're talking to an ex-marathon runner here. What I love about a downward dog is you do 6 or 8, say, sun salutations, where you just do that simple flow where, up to the sky, hands on the ground, jump, step back, do your downward dog. You do 6 or 8 of those, doing the deep breaths and flows. You can roll out of bed and do them. Set 1, it's like you've got high heels on. There's like 10, 15 centimeters between your heel and the ground, and by the time you get to set 8, I'm maybe 3 or 4 centimeters off the ground. So I feel so wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is actually a great one. One wellness thing you've completely ditched.
Probably for me, intermittent fasting, because I realized that I was that more A-type stressed. I don't have a body fat issue, and I was pushing that fast out and then kind of feeling jittery. And the other thing I didn't mention, one of the markers we test is bilirubin. And when this is a great one for those that are questioning whether they should intermittent fast or not. My bilirubin was climbing, and that's Gilbert syndrome. And if you are looking like you've got Gilbert's, it's very benign, but it just is a sign that fasting isn't for you. So test your bilirubin. You'll be able to tell if fasting's for you or not.
Yeah.
I see so many great benefits with my fat loss ladies, but it definitely isn't for me.
Yep. Okay, great. What makes you feel most like yourself?
Shout out to my 3 besties, Sam, Lou, and Zoe, who with Sam and I were best friends from preschool, and then the rest of us in year 5 at school. We'll catch up probably every 6 to 8 weeks for a dinner, and we laugh so hard. And honestly, there's no drug, no therapy, no nothing that could give me the halo effect and the feeling of being my authentic self than those besties, those people in your life that you can just sit in your own skin with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Okay, so Amelia, Mills, this has been amazing because it's made me go, okay, yeah, I've got some things to do. But I've loved thinking about focusing on exercise and food in terms because I think busy mums being a term and the holidays in between, it gives you gives you that block of time to actually think about what you can change and making it small. Because I think when we focus on making too big a changes, we just don't do them.
Set ourselves up for
we do, or we do them for a little bit and then that's it. That's done.
Great.
Last
love that.
Last question. If I could do one thing before I hit 50, something that will push me, make me a little bit uncomfortable, what do you think I should do?
Why does it have to make you uncomfortable and push you?
Okay. What's something that I should do?
I think you should start tracking your markers.
Yeah, okay.
And it might make you uncomfortable because it might uncover some things that maybe, don't sit well with you. But if the premise of your show is around getting to 50 and setting yourself up for this wonderful next chapter of life, I think understanding your body better and having those key markers that you can be understanding and tracking is one of the best things you can do to help navigate the menopause period so that you can come out the other side feeling amazing, reclaiming your life and feeling like you're setting up that next chapter in the healthiest way possible. And it just means that you will be less confused. You will have clarity and you'll know where your blind spots might be or your weaknesses might be. And so you can take a much more targeted approach to your health and relax a little. Then you can relax and you don't have to feel like you've got to be doing all the things out there.
And I think it's amazing. So even with like my blood tests now, I do put them into ChatGPT and say, can you please explain this to me as I don't know anything about my health so that it is easy to understand. But it is, understanding the markers.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Massive, but I think that is a great thing.
Yeah, and not just being told that this is what you should be doing, understanding the why.
I think that is
functional medicine is a root cause approach. It's not, you have high cholesterol and therefore you need to go on statins. It's like, you have high cholesterol. Let's understand why you have high cholesterol, and then let's try to take a root cause approach. And a lot of the time, that's all you need. Those little tweaks. So I love that term-based. And just picking one area, focusing on that. And then before you know it, you'll add more and more.
Yeah.
And you'll be
by the end of the year, you'll
fabulous.
have four extra things that you've embedded into your life.
Yep.
For food, for exercise, and you'll be amazing.
Yep. Feel great.
Okay. Whew. That was it. Thank you very much for sharing your energy and your wisdom, particularly with so much warmth and just real talk, because you definitely do that.
My pleasure.
And you've taken something that feels so overwhelming, like inflammation. It's just there's so much talk out there about what it is, what it does, how it can impact you, and you just don't know where to start or what to do. So thank you for explaining that. And you've reminded us that midlife isn't the end point, that it is actually the platform to move forward, which I love. I love that. And we need to reconnect with ourselves. And I think that's what I've taken out of so much of the conversations I'm having is it's all about making sure you know who you are, what you want, what your body needs, and how it does actually respond.
So true. No one's coming to save us.
No one is coming to save us.
No one's coming around the corner. No
is-
doctor, no influencer. The onus is on us yet again.
Yeah. It is 100% on us.
But it's worth it.
Yes, it is. You know what? It is worth it, particularly if you feel like you know you better.
Yeah.
And you know what your body is going to respond to.
It's empowering.
It is very empowering. So if this episode resonated with you like it did me, and you want to go and check out Amelia's program, Inner Vitality, please do so. It will all be in the show notes. And it's not about becoming someone new. It's about coming back to yourself, which I think is a big thing.
100%.
Yeah. And if you are sitting in the something's not right and you need to be doing something different, then it is a perfect thing to go and explore.
And even following me on Instagram, because I do put a lot of tips and tricks on Insta. So, yeah, maybe pop my handle in. And I'm pretty active on DM, so I'm always happy to chat over DM if you're like, what's this? What do I do?
You're way too kind. Way too kind. Anyway, if you've loved this episode, please subscribe, send it to your friends, subscribe to Amelia's Instagram and all of the things that she's got available. I'll put them in the show notes. You don't have to do everything, but you can start with one thing. And if you loved anything in here, they'll be in the show notes. Try something new that shifts your energy. Try the term challenge and look at your food or your exercise because, fuck, I'm nearly 50 and isn't it amazing?